With Carolina's offense still trying to find its way a little bit, the Carolina defense, though, has a chance to be elite.
This is Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, December 15th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Carolina content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Network, now the #1 sports podcast network there is. I want to thank you so much for making us your first listen or watch of the day to kick off this brand new week. Good grief. It's the last week before Christmas. Special shout out to all you everydayers, the brand new Everydayers Club. Great to be part of that. All the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord and our great insiders as well. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Joining me on the show today, it's our good buddy Josh Marlow from the Four Corners podcast, Heel Tough blog. He's just coming off a gajillion hours of doing radio and hopping right in with me. What a boss. Marlow, it's great to be together here in the middle of December. I hope that you are cheery and well. Here's what Marlow and I are talking about today. It's hard to believe this, but we are now a third of the way into the regular season, my guy. And so that we are 6 weeks in, there are 12 weeks left. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to make some projections. We've got a bunch of data points. And so I want to now make a little bit more informed guesses about things we'll be looking at the end of the season. Now, a disclaimer, I have been gone over the weekend. In fact, I'm recording this Wednesday of last week, Marlow and I are. So we don't yet know the results of the USC Upstate game, although it's fair to imagine that Carolina won that game handily. But we also don't know any other Carolina results of the weekend either. So that means that any stats, records we talk about today do not include Saturday's game against USC Upstate. I will be back for tomorrow's show, though. I'm actually getting back today, Monday, with my family from Florida. And so we will do an ETSU preview tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, we will do a live postcast after that. Marlow, I've talked plenty. Brother, happy holidays. Great to be together.
Shade, happy holidays to you and your family. Hope y'all are staying warm. It's gotten really cold down here in the Charlotte area part of North Carolina, but you've asked, or you hope that I was cheery, and I can tell you I've been very happy, very pleased, because Carolina has looked the part through the first third of the season. And, since you're counting that, we're now 13 Sundays away from Selection Sunday, the best Sunday of the sports calendar year. And it's going to be here before you know it. But the way Carolina has played for the majority of the season has made it a lot of fun. We needed this after such a downer of a football year. Hubert Davis needed this to quiet all the haters. And so it's been a really fun start to the season. Maybe it doesn't look the way you thought it was going to look in some regards, but I do think Carolina has established themselves as a legitimate contender in what feels like a much better ACC conference top to bottom.
Yes.
I think they have, with some of their wins, with the Kansas and Kentucky, I think they put themselves in the mix to be a second weekend of the tournament type of team, which was kind of the thought and expectation going into the year.
Yeah, it's funny. You talk about Hubert Davis. Marlow, I haven't been hearing too many hot seat conversations lately. It's almost like people just like to say things before they know what's actually going to happen. Wild.
Yeah, it is. When they had the win over Kansas and they had the win over Kentucky, I talked like, hey, I'm happy for the players, proud of the players, but really happy for a coach that I think, needs these wins, obviously. Jones Angels talked about it a lot, where Carolina plays in marquee games, haven't won a lot of them, and that becomes, the referendum of your head coach. And I want to win marquee games with Hubert Davis, and he's done that so far. The Michigan State loss, I was upset at the way that the loss happened, obviously, but they were, a good second half away from owning wins over Duke, Carolina, Kentucky. Like, that's a legitimate Final Four team. So I think he's answered a lot of questions with this revamped roster. Oh, by the way, without Seth Trimble. So, as good as they've been, that's why I've been saying they're just scratching the surface what type of team I think they're going to be by the time we do get to conference play here in a few weeks.
That's so well said, my man. And that Seth Trimble mention is a great segue into our projection. So here's what Marlow and I are going to do. Each of today's 3 segments, we're going to make projections about 2 different things. Some of them are statistically based, but one is NCAA tournament based. And this very first one, Marlow, we predicted preseason that Carolina's defense was going to be very, very good given their length and size and athleticism. As we stand here right now, Carolina is 19th in defensive efficiency at KenPom. Here's the first projection I want us to make. Where will North Carolina's defense be ranked at KenPom on Selection Sunday, that glorious, glorious Sunday that you just talked about a moment ago? Let me give you a chance of you answering where Carolina finished, not Selection Sunday, but where they finished in defensive efficiency each of the other 4 years of the Hubert Davis era. 35, 46, 8, that's the outlier, and 47. Marlow, what's your projection?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be as high as 8. They're not going to be as low as 46, as I think is which was the lowest number that you just gave me. I'm comfortable and confident saying I think they're going to be a top 25 defense because you mentioned, they're 19th as we're sitting here recording, and they've played 2 games with their best perimeter defender, and that's Seth Trimble. The defense, I do think, will go a step up when you get him back, but these numbers can be tricky because, Carolina could play more possessions and that stuff could kind of work itself out. I think this is a top 15 defense, though. So I'll give the baseline. If you want to give me an exact number, I'll go 14. I think they'll finish top 15, though, just because you look at where they are now. And it's not because they're beating up on small opponents. Look what they did against Kentucky, what they did against Georgetown, 2 teams I do think will be in NCAA tournament conversation come tournament time. They were, Kentucky 10 minutes without a field goal. Georgetown 22% in the second half. They've done this against power conference competition. So I think they're still just scratching the surface on that end of the floor. They're as connected as I think we've seen a Hubert Davis team this early on in the season, but you get Trimble back, you can really start to do some things with your full court pressure, run and jump, and some other things that, Carolina could do tactically. So I think by the time we get to tournament time, we'll be talking about a defense that's top 15 in the country.
And to your point, I was looking, obviously we're talking specifically where will they land at KenPom. As we record at barttorvik.com, they are 14th in the nation already in defensive efficiency, Marlon. So that's great news there. What's funny, I was going to be very close to my answer on yours. I was going to go 12 for where Carolina lands. I'm right with you that they're 19th without Seth Trimble, right? And so I think the bump that Trimble gives them, there might be even as good as Seth is, they got to work him back in. So there might be a little chemistry that has to get ironed out there for a couple games, but he's been with them. It's not like he's been absent. So he's been talking, he's been watching. They already know what they got with him. And so I think he will pretty seamlessly come back into the mix there defensively. And because he's such a good individual defender, that helps as well. But I'm with you. I think top 15 is a very safe thing. And the ceiling could legitimately be a top 10 defense. But Marlo, I think we do have to recognize there are some insanely good defenses out there in the country as well. And so I think saying top 15 feels like a good, safe number. All right, Marlo, let's move on then from where will they be defensively on Selection Sunday? Here's the big fun one. What will North Carolina's NCAA tournament seed be? And the fun thing about being able to ask it that way is that it feels like it's not going to be a bubble year. And that alone warms my heart so hard. So Josh Marlow, assuming Carolina doesn't have some sort of catastrophic collapse, what will their NCAA tournament seed be?
Yeah, they're 14th in the AP poll on the day of recording. If you go by that, that would suggest that they would be a 4 seed come Selection Sunday. Obviously, the poll doesn't factor into how the tournament committee ranks them. I think they're going to end up being a 3 seed. That's where I think this team is going to climb to. I'd love to think they could get as high as a 2. I think that might involve a regular season sweep of Duke and beating Louisville. I don't know if Carolina's going to get all 3 of those wins. I'd like to go 2-1. You expect to split with Duke. You get Louisville at home. I think it's fair to expect Carolina to win that game. Maybe if they win the ACC tournament, that could push them up to that 2 line. But I mean, if they're a 3 seed, you're still talking about a strong regular season showing, And, 3 seeds, sometimes the way the bracket gets drawn up, they have good paths to the second weekend, to the Elite Eight,
Yep.
so on and so forth. So, I think, we're spoiled because we're used to seeing a 1 or a 2 beside Carolina's name, and Carolina's achieved that under Hubert Davis before. But I do think they'll probably settle in, I think, as high as a 3 seed. Part of that shade is out of their control with what some of these schools from other conferences like Michigan State out of the Big Ten, what Arizona's doing in the Big 12. It's going to be really hard to maybe climb over those resumes with what they've done here in the first month of the season. But I think you'd have to be pretty satisfied if Carolina's got a 3 seed. And I think that's where they'll end up 13 Sundays from now.
I think that's a very sensible look at how high they can climb, but maybe what are some of the entrenched teams on that 1 or 2 that aren't going anywhere because of what they've already built. One of the nice things for Carolina this year, as you talked about the ACC being better top to bottom, is that as we sit here today, there are 11 quad 1 opportunities available for them. They will play no quad 4 games in ACC play, at least as the net rankings stand right now. And so that's going to help too. You got a bunch more opportunities to pick up really quality wins, and maybe more importantly, not suffer any bad losses. So what's funny, Marlow, is I had the exact same thing. I had Carolina as a 3 seed, which would mean they are ultimately top 12 when we get to Selection Sunday. I think that feels like a good, like not even crazy prediction, right? Like that seems like a very realistic thing. I like what you were talking about with those 3 games against Louisville and Duke combined. 2 of those, as you said, are at home. That's massive for this thing. We do have some other tricky schools now, and like Virginia's starting to play a lot better. I think the only game against the Cavs is in Charlottesville, if I remember the schedule correctly. And so there are some big time opportunities to get big wins. And so we'll see what Carolina does, but I like them as a 3 seed. Marlow, quickly, I didn't prep either of this for this, but I just thought about it in real time. You know, the selection committee does that top 16 reveal like in early February. Yep. Do you think Carolina will be sitting in that field?
I think so, because as you mentioned, or maybe we said this before we actually hit the record button, you've got 2 quad 1 wins now that you're pretty safe are already going to be there. Like those aren't going to, I don't think they're going to dissipate as the season does, move forward. And you got, as you mentioned, you've got 11 more quad 1 opportunities ahead of you. You've got one before you get into non-con play or into conference play, because you got Ohio State, which is going to be, I think, a quad 1 game when they meet in Atlanta this Saturday. But before Christmas, I think you expect Carolina to win that game. So that would give them already, 3 quad 1 wins. And then depending on what they do in the month of January, because there'll be some quad 1 opportunities in that month, they could already have a good number of quad 1 wins ready to go, like they did 2 years ago when they earned that number 1 seed, as I mentioned earlier. So, yeah, I do think when we get that look at the top 16 seeds overall, usually I think that's a month before we get to the actual bracket. Yeah. I think it's the first weekend in December, maybe it's the second, or February, maybe it's the second one. I don't exactly remember. I do think you'll see Carolina's name up there. And I think that'll bode well for them in the long run, because there aren't a lot of times you see teams move out of that. Usually it's maybe 2 or 3. There's not a lot of movement from there. And so if you see Carolina in that initial top 16 seeds in February, there's a good chance they'll be there come Selection Sunday.
Last year it was on Saturday, February 15th. So yeah, right about a month before the selection show comes out. Man, it's going to be really exciting to see where Carolina lands. I hadn't thought about it till you were laying it out, but Carolina in those 3 quad 1 games could have a quad 1 win at home, neutral site, and on the road, assuming they beat Ohio State on Saturday. Fun stuff. Now, Marlow, we're going to move next into some statistical projections for the end of the regular season. Seems pretty obvious, at least to me, that Caleb Wilson is going to be Carolina's leading scorer this year. But who's going to be number 2? And will Caleb Wilson or Henri Veesaar win the rebounding battle for the Tar Heels? We'll get to those projections in just a second. Right after I tell you about Aura Frames. The holidays, you guys are officially here, and that means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's the way to share memories. Because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload it before you even give into it, and that ensures that when your whoever, mom, dad, brother, sister, uncle, cousin, brother, when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. And it allows you to upload pictures endlessly and also up to 30-second video clips, all from the Aura app. Really cool. You can add a personalized message that's in the frame so it's there for you and feels sentimental the second you open it. The packaging comes gifts ready. You don't have to there's no price tag on it. You don't have to wrap it. It's a huge win. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used, not forgotten in a drawer somewhere. So for a limited time, save on that perfect holiday gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, which were just named #1 by Wirecutter. And you can do that by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support Locked on Tar Heels by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks so much for making Locked on Tar Heels your first listen or watch of the day, and thanks for making Locked on the #1 sports podcast network. All right, Marlow, we're going to continue with our projection show here, and we're going to move into more of a statistical direction now. What I want each of us to project, again, 12 weeks remaining in the regular season. As of right now, Caleb Wilson is North Carolina's leading scorer at 19.3. Remember, folks, this is before the USC stats update. USC upstate, excuse me. Henri Veesaar second at 16.2. Seth Trimble sitting on the bench with 14.5. Luka Bogavac the only other in double figures with 12.2. My question for us is, when we get to the end of the regular season, who will be Carolina's leading scorer? Josh Marlow, you first.
I think it's the guy that's sitting there second right now, and that's going to be Henri Veesaar at 16.2 points per game. Simply because there's not a reason for Carolina to not play through those two guys every game. Those two guys should take the majority of the shots. Maybe Seth Trimble, because of he'll have so many games missed if he comes out, could maybe threaten to become Carolina's second leading scorer. But I kind of echo what I said all summer long, that if he was Carolina's leading scorer, I don't think that would bode well for this team. I don't think it'd bode well for Carolina if he has to become Carolina's second leading scorer. There's going to become a game where these two guys are contained and their impact isn't what it was on Sunday when they combined for 38 and 29 or whatever it was.
Which is like their season average, oh, by the way.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But it's not going to happen frequently. And
That's
so and you look at Veesaar, the way that he makes about 1, 2 threes a game. He gets about 2 or 3 dunks a game. He gets to the foul line. It's just really hard to contain him because he can score the ball in so many different ways. And so I don't expect that to change anytime moving forward. I don't think Caleb Wilson's numbers are going to come down to where he doesn't lead Carolina in scoring to begin with. And so I expect that to be Henri Veesaar when this thing's all said and done, where Carolina's top 2 scorers are their 4 and their 5-man, something that we haven't seen in quite some time in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, dude, completely agree with you there. Veesaar is my pick as well to be the second leading scorer when it's done. I don't believe the only thing I could see potentially happening is that as Caleb Wilson receives more and more and more defensive attention in ACC play, it opens the door even more for Henry to do even more work. And as Caleb has to just rely on his passing, which is great because there's a bunch of dudes around him that can finish. There is a world there where maybe Henry slides slightly ahead of Caleb and Caleb becomes number 2. But I don't ultimately think that's going to happen because Caleb gets so many easy dunks and points even still. As you said, like the Trimble defense for number 2, I think is laid out well. I think as the season continues, Luka Bogavac is going to continue to score more and more points. But does Seth coming back eat into that some? And, with him being about 4 points a game behind Henry already, even if he does start coming along, I don't necessarily see him making up that gap. So I think there are arguments for other people, but I think it stays right where it is right now. And I think you laid that out so well, Marlow. Anything else from you to say on that?
I was just going to follow up and say that, we talked about a lot of this during the summer. I'm just blown away that you're seeing a freshman, albeit a top 10 freshman, do what he's doing. And I still don't think he's getting the national respect that he deserves.
Yes.
You have guys like Rob Doster, who I respect in the industry, writing articles about how many dunks he misses per game and everything. like that. And I mean, the bigger surprise is just really the struggle I think I've seen from Luka. I thought Georgetown was his best game. I thought that was, and he only shot 1 of 5 from 3, but it was like the first time he looked comfortable, looked confident, handled the physicality of the American game in a way that we just haven't seen him. So maybe as he gets more comfortable, maybe his numbers continue to rise. I don't know if he's going to catch though Veesaar as Carolina's second leading scorer, but I think it's just really important. And I know we did this last time I was with you, and I do it, on the four corners, just really hammer down, because the way Carolina runs their program, we don't see Caleb Wilson all the time. We don't see a freshman come in here and establish himself as Carolina's best player, let alone as their leading scorer. And that's what he's done. And it's why Veesaar can average what he's doing. It's why the game will become easier for Luka Bogavac over time when Seth Trimble comes back. And so just kind of wanted to point that out that,
That's a good word.
we're so confident in him already that no one's going to catch him as this leading scorer. And that was not on my bingo card entering the season, where I thought he'd be leading Carolina in scoring 9 games in and be comfortable thinking that'll hold up over the span of 30 plus games or so.
Yeah. That's good. Let's move to our very next one. Who will be UNC's leading rebounder when we get to the end of the regular season? As it stands now, Caleb Wilson leads not only Carolina, but the ACC at 10.6 boards a game. Veesaar is second at 9.2. And just to show you how big the gap is, Seth Trimble is third at 5 rebounds a game. So really, Josh, this just comes down to, can Henri Veesaar overtake Caleb Wilson? Yes or no?
I think he can, and I don't know if I necessarily expect him to, but I would not be surprised if he does, because what you're starting to see now with Henry is him get the rebounds that he's getting because of the position that he's getting, not just because he's tall. He's working to get himself where he needs to get to, really to eliminate, when teams shoot threes, not give up those long offensive rebounds. And so, you mentioned it felt like against Georgetown, they were competing for each rebound. It felt like every time there was a missed shot, especially when they were on defense, it was those two guys going to get the ball, which is it felt like John Henson, Tyler Zeller-esque, where you just know when a shot goes up, one of those two guys is going to go and grab it. But I don't think he'll catch Caleb. I really don't. I think that's something that Caleb, that's what separates him from a Debanza, Peterson. Boozer's been very good on the glass for Duke.
He has been.
I mean, he's averaging a double-double. He's basically averaging 20 and 10 at the college level. And I think that kind of speaks volumes to the kind of player that he is. And so I think it's a good thing for Carolina that you got these two guys that are that committed to that area of the game. They're that skilled in that area of the game. I think Veesaar could take him over, but I don't think Caleb Wilson will allow that, just knowing his competitive nature with himself, his teammates, and, of course, the opponents.
Yeah, and I agree. My answer is also Caleb Wilson stays at the top of it. I think part of it with Caleb is his ability to rebound in space. Henry can do some of that just because his arms are so stinking long and he reaches out. But Caleb's ability to move athletically to wherever a ball rebounds to, track it down, and then take off running, I think just further cements it. And just how vicious he is, Will. Yeah. Like, this dude is insatiable with all of that. And so I think that'll be fantastic. So yes, I'm right with you on that. All right. We got 2 more to get to. Josh Marlow, who is going to end up leading Carolina in assists per game, and who's going to make the most threes on this team? We'll answer those to wrap the show coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, y'all, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, boom, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the live action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Maybe it's a receiver that gets hot, defense tightens up, or there's a big turnover that creates that momentum change. FanDuel lets you jump in on those moments because live spreads and money lines update instantly when that happens. a player gets hot, boom, the player prop updates. You can bet the next touchdown score. You can bet how is this drive going to turn out? All sorts of stuff like that. It's so great. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. ACC regular season championship odds for basketball. Duke leads the way. It keeps growing, -125, then Louisville +240. Interestingly, Clemson has moved into third at +1400. I don't know why they're favored above Carolina to win the ACC, but hey, we'll take some longer odds on the Tar Heels. Thank you very much. And then Virginia and Carolina tied for fourth at +1600. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Next projection we are going to make. Who will be Carolina's assist leader at the end of the regular season? As it sits right now, here's the top four. Kyan Evans, 4.0 a game. Seth Trimble, 3.5. Luka Bogavac, 3. And Caleb Wilson, 2.4. And then obviously the other variable that now starts to come into this thing is Derek Dixon, who is sitting at 1.4 assists per game thus far. Part of this, Marlow, is the changing dynamics of what's going to happen in the backcourt. Will Kyan Evans still have the lead when we end the regular season?
I don't think he will. And I think, that could be a good thing because I want him to become more of a scorer than a passer anyway. That's what he was brought here to do. I think once we saw the 2-guard lineup against Georgetown. I'd imagine we saw it against USC Upstate. I think you'll see the best version of him. I don't think it's going to be Seth Trimble either. I think Luka Bogavac's passing is something that I did not put a lot of stock in when Carolina brought him into the transfer portal. Now, granted, because you don't get a lot of highlights from the Adriatic League overseas, but everything you saw was him shooting the ball. Well, he's a real gifted, real skilled passer, especially when he drives the lane, draws two defenders. He's kind of crafty around the rim with the ability to get the ball to Wilson, Veesaar, so on and so forth. And we've seen some half-court sets where he's the guy that's handling the ball.
That's right.
In the half-court. And I like that. I think that's a good adjustment Hubert Davis has made to take some pressure off your point guard who is struggling, obviously, but also to get even more out of Luka Bogavac while he's struggling to put the ball in the basket in his own right. He's sitting right now averaging 3 assists per game, so just only 1 full assist behind Kyan Evans. This feels to me, of all the future projections, stuff that we've done here today, the one where a guy isn't leading the team in that category, where he could emerge as the leader by the season ends. And so I do think by the time, we get to that final Monday night and Carolina's cutting down the nets and we're celebrating a national championship, it'll be Luka Bogavac who emerges as Carolina's leading assist man.
Dude, I cannot tell you how much I love that from you. Like, it makes and his assist to turnover ratio has been insane as well, I might add. It's not just the assists, it's the fact that he's not turning it over when he does so. What is he sitting at as we record? 1.2 a game. So essentially 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, Marlow. Like that's it as well, not just everything that you said. It's funny because with Derek Dixon, I think he's going to continue to take on more of a role, but with how far back he is, a third of the way into the season, I don't think there's enough. Even if he starts averaging more, I don't think he'll have enough assists to catch up and take over any of those guys. No. I'm curious to see Seth Trimble's playmaking role when he comes back, especially now that Dixon is taking on more of those point guard duties and ball handling duties, and Luka doing that, as you said as well. So I don't think it's Seth. I don't think it's Derek. I don't think it's Caleb Wilson. He will continue to get assists, especially as teams continue to double him. But I'm with you. I think it does come down to Kyan Evans and Luka Bogavac. Bogavac's only trailing by 1 right now. So you know what? I'll take it too. Give me a side of Luka Bogavac here to lead Carolina assists per game when we get to the end of the regular season. I like that a lot. All right, Marlow, final projection for today's show. A third of the way into the season, 2/3 of the regular season remain. Who will make the most threes for this team when we get to the end of the season? As it sits right now, Luka Bogavac leads the way with 17 made, followed by Kyan Evans and Derek Dixon at 12 each, Jonathan Powell at 10, Henri Veesaar at 8, and Stevenson at 6. Obviously, you all listening and watching this know how many threes were made by these guys on Saturday against USC Upstate, so the numbers will obviously update beyond that. Marlow, what you got?
I think if this team reaches its ultimate ceiling offensively, and I still believe in what Carolina can be as an offense, because I love the shots that they're generating. They're getting quality looks from behind the arc. They just haven't gone in the way you expect them to. I think Jonathan Powell could make up the deficit of being 7 threes behind, because I think he needs to play more, because I think Carolina needs his shooting. But I also think the more that Luka Bogavac gets comfortable, I think you'll see that come with it. Like, he made that three made at Kentucky, out of that set with 2.5 minutes to go was a real big three, both in that moment and just for him personally. I'm gonna default to Luka. I think Derek Dixon could also really challenge this as well, because you saw in that Georgetown win, man, when that confidence is there, he's not afraid to be a flamethrower from behind the 3-point line. I think Jonathan Powell is going to get hot and be a top 3 perimeter shooter by the time this thing does all. By the time the dust settles, but I'll stick with the guy that's currently leading Carolina 3-point shooting. It's why we brought him in. That's why he was such coveted once Carolina went and brought him in from overseas. So still give me Luka Bogavac, but I expect a strong push from Derek Dixon and Jonathan Powell, as I think their playing time continues to increase as the season moves ahead.
And I think a big part of the answer to this, Marlow, is the inside out game that Carolina has, because I've been just hammering on, got to play inside out, can't just default to threes and settle for threes, got to play through Henry, got to play through Caleb. And then the looks that these guards that you just talked about are going to get because of the gravity that those two bigs have is insane to me, right? Like I think about that three that Derek Dixon made against Georgetown right at the top of the key off the kick out from Henry. I mean, it's crazy stuff. And I'm so glad you mentioned that Luka 3 against Kentucky. Everybody remembers the Derek Dixon 3. That was, one of the last ones. But that Luka 3 over, was it right in the corner in front of the Carolina bench, if I remember correctly? I mean, my goodness, dude, like what that did for this game. And so I've got to answer the same as you here again. Luka Bogavac will lead Carolina in made threes when we get to the end of the season. And that combined, by the way, with our last answer, if he's leading Carolina in threes and assists per game, meaning he's driving well, he's finishing, either finishing and getting fouled. I think he had 2 different and 1 opportunities the other day against Georgetown, dishing for other guys, but able to be around the perimeter and hit those. He's quick trigger. He has zero conscience, man. This dude is pulling and you love it. So I think that's got to be the answer. It's got to be Luka. I think, as you said, there are other guys that can make it up. I just don't think anybody will, because he's just getting going in his comfortability. All right, guys. Love it. Great stuff. Marlow, anything else to add on that as we get out?
No, this was a lot of fun. Just a nice way to talk about the season so far, the season that we're going to have ahead. And I think it's going to be a fun one, because I think, Carolina's proven that they're tough, they're physical, they rebound it really well. They want to play defense. The offense is going to be there. I truly believe that. That's why, I haven't gotten overly panicked about the poor shooting numbers, because I look at the shots that they're getting, and I think over the course of 30 games, those shots will start to go in. And so this is kind of what we talked about when this thing came together in the summer. We were talking about this roster individually. It's been fun to see Hubert Davis and the staff kind of do what they've done on the fly with 11 new guys. It's not easy to do it, but that's the task that they were tasked with. And so it's been a fun first start of the season. Can't wait to see what the next 2/3 have in store for this team.
Amen to that. And that'll start tomorrow night against ETSU, one of the last 3 non-con games on the schedule. Remember, ETSU tomorrow, Saturday down in Atlanta in the CBS Sports Classic against Ohio State. And then ECU, the Pirates, coming to the Dean Dome to wrap the non-con slate. All right, Josh Marlow, thank you so much for joining me. So great. As you said, what a fun exercise this was, guys. Please make sure you go check out all of Josh's great work at Four Corners Podcast, Heel Tough Blog, everything he and Anthony Pagnotta do together. I always try to trumpet it and just say, man, if you aren't dialed into that, you are missing out. The content is so good. Hope you all have a great week. Can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow to preview the ETSU game, and then we'll be live after it tomorrow night. If you haven't subscribed to Locked on Tar Heels on video and audio, do it right now so you don't miss a second. If you have not looked into the brand new Everydayers Club, the link for that's in the show notes. We'd love to see you there. Come hang out with us in the Locked on Tar Heels Discord chat, man. That link's in the show notes. Free to join. It is a phenomenal place to be as a Tar Heel fan. You guys, can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel, but until then, peace.